Well, good morning. My name is Mallory Ray. I work at the University of Missouri Extension. I'm based out of Columbia, which is getting a fair amount of snow. Looks like we've got about an inch and a half out the window here this morning. I I'm an agricultural economist, and I do a lot of work within the value-added agriculture space, and a big focus of my work is on specialty crop producers. We are very pleased to kind of talk about the resources that MU Extension is actively creating and expanding, and to introduce you to the Farm Service Agency so they can talk more about their programs and opportunities to shift some of the risk. The specialty crops is a small industry. It is a growing industry, and we hope after today you feel better equipped to support producers, potential clients that come to your bank and want more information as they try to scale or start a farm, a specialty crop farm. I'm joined here this morning with my colleague Manita Ale, who's based out of St. Louis, and we're going to talk for just a little bit, and then we'll turn it over to the Farm Service Agency team. So I'm just going to go through a few things about the specialty crop industry. When we look at where this industry is concentrated, we see a lot on the coastal parts of the United States. And when we look here in Missouri, we see the concentration is along the I-70 corridor with St. Louis, Columbia, and Kansas City really popping. And these are the counties that have the highest concentration of farms that primarily grow specialty crops. And if you're wondering sort of what am I talking about when I say specialty crops, we're talking a lot about the food crops for direct consumption. So orchards, berries, vegetable and melon production, as well as the floriculture nursery crop industry. And when I say orchards, I also mean tree nuts. So when we take a look here at the St. Louis region, this is using data from the 2022 Census of Agriculture. We can see the number of farms in the region. We can look at median farm size by total acres. And then we can look at the average market value of products sold from these farms. The thing I want to point out here is there is a lot of variation. So we have um, some tend to be smaller farms, but we also see some fairly high and varied average market values per farm. And if we look at Kansas City, we're going to see something, you know, a little less variation in some of these average market values and substantially higher. And Cass County really stands out as being a place of high concentration. So those of you who may not realize this, University of Missouri puts together every year a survey. So this is a opinion survey. We send it to lenders, real estate appraisers, and farmers to ask for their opinions on what we hope are actual farmland transactions in the previous 12 months. We started to collect this data for the urban areas of the state separately, and we're looking at that ring around Kansas City and the ring around St. Louis when we define urban. There's not a lot of data in the urban areas, but this is the second year where we've been able to publish estimates for farmland values separately in the urban areas of our state compared to the rural. And you can see there at the bottom in the dark gray, the urban areas have significantly higher farmland value estimates. So that is one, there's a lot of competition for farmland, and it's something that producers do struggle with is land access. So this is just to give you a look at what we think is happening in some of our farmland transactions. When we look at sort of this overall industry here in the state, I'm showing you data from the Census of Agriculture, which is collected every 5 years from 2007 moving forward. And we can see that there's been growth in the number of farms, and this market value, which I've adjusted here for inflation, so all of these reflect 2022 US dollars. We saw a decline and then tremendous growth between 2017 and 2022. Those of you who are familiar with the Census of Ag data, it's the most comprehensive set of data we collect on our agricultural industry. It is also point in time estimates. So every 5 years, we collect a fairly deep but point in time. So agriculture has tremendous seasonality in prices. This could be driven by foreign competition as well as weather. And so it's not uncommon to see large dips in market value when you look at this data set. And a lot of those things have to go back to what exactly was happening in 2017 for this industry. So Missouri has about 35, a little over 3,500 farms that primarily specialize in these, what we're calling specialty crops. It's just under 45,000 acres and 500 million in sales. However, there are more farms that report growing these specialty crops beyond the number that are strictly specialized. And so as we look at kind of that composition across our state, we find that the highest number of farms, 1,500, are reporting that they have orchard production. This could be fruit orchards or tree nut orchards, followed by vegetables, that nursery, greenhouse, floriculture, and sod farms, and berries. Our Christmas tree industry is by comparison a lot smaller. And then there are other, very few farms that are doing other specialty crops not captured in these bigger categories. So I want to walk you through a little bit of details. All of this is coming from that Census of Agriculture, that 2022 study. So to give you a sense of what this looks like, to help familiarize yourself with this industry here in our state. So we're going to start by taking a look at the fruit industry. So here we're going to look at the crops. So our fruit orchard is primarily an apple industry, and we see small growth in farms and acres. Berries, we have these are our four largest berry crops that we're growing here in Missouri. And we have a tremendous growth in our elderberry industry. And for those of you who may not know, Missouri really is a national leader in elderberry production. The, that's the crop featured here in this photo. There's been tremendous interest in this crop because of the ability to process it and sell it in a variety of really high valued products. There is a significant time period to get this crop established and really in full production. It takes about 5 years. To better help lenders and producers who are interested in this crop, the University of Missouri has really budgeted out the expected cost and returns to establishing this crop and getting it to that full fifth year of production. Then we're going to look at the crops under protection. So this could be a high tunnel or a low tunnel, other forms of just covered production. We see that a lot of this is in the floriculture and bedding crops, so ornamentals, followed by tomatoes being a very large industry here in Missouri. If you have a producer that is interested in high tunnel tomato production, they can also find University of Missouri resources that help them understand the cost. Or if you are looking at a loan application and you want to have some kind of way to understand, are these costs reasonable? What's the market like? Again, we've kind of put those pieces together to help serve as a benchmark for when you're looking at these kinds of applications. And then this is just a quick look at our vegetable industry. And so most of our vegetable industry is going straight to the fresh market. We have a smaller set of farms that are primarily selling to processors directly. Um, So when we look at our fresh market, we see a lot of watermelons and pumpkins, followed by sweet corn and potatoes. Looking at that total acre allocation of land in our state. Um, and there's been some decline, some growth. So there's volatility in this industry. Um, and here's the crops that have more than 100 acres in harvested production, again in 2022, which is the most recent information we have on this industry. Also included are our beekeeping. So we've seen growth, about 10% growth over the last 5 years in the number of producers that want to keep bees. We have an enterprise budget that looks at this very labor-intensive industry. Uh, I spoke a little bit about our Christmas trees already. Mushroom production, a lot of this is indoor mushroom production, and we're working on an enterprise budget for that industry now. Here's a glimpse at our sod industry and our maple syrup industry. Um, and so when we want to understand more about how this industry is different than commodity agriculture, I think it's really helpful to just take this census snapshot and kind of use it as a way to sort of put a framework around this. So we're going to look at the vegetable and melon industry first. And so these farms had on average about $120,000 in sales. That produced a net cash farm income of around 45,000. 63% of the farms had gain in farm income. And you can see this is a capital intensive industry. So the average value of land and buildings is, $500,000. We see that these farms, again, only 41% of operators are using this as a full-time occupation. Um, and like other parts of the industry, this is a male-dominated industry among our primary operators, but the female percent of producers is higher than across all of agriculture. Um, Here's a glimpse at the nursery and floriculture production. So again, those average products sold a little bit higher, 178,000. The capital intensity slightly lower at 443,000, a little bit higher on that net cash farm income, um, and a little bit higher concentration of people who are solely focused on farming as their occupation. So if you step back and kind of reflect on all of this, this is sort of how we view the lending environment for specialty crop farmers. So when we think about the production side, there are a lot of pros. There's an ability to really have tremendous diversification. And one thing I haven't spoken enough about is that producers have options on varieties and methods of production. So they can grow open field, they can grow high tunnel, they can grow greenhouse. And all of these things have a different labor and capital requirements and skill. And so what we see is a lot of fluctuation due to these different production technologies, as well as the more common disease and weather risks. Um, while I showed you some, $500,000 as the average value of farm and buildings, that average, you can get into the specialty crop industry with a lot less capital than other areas of agriculture. Uh, and that can produce a higher return on assets than other types of agriculture. And what we see is as this industry becomes more popular, there's been rapid development in the private industry to create new tools and systems, tracking systems, software systems, as well as in-field technology to increase the efficiencies, to really help producers a lot of these businesses start from a very labor-intensive place, and we've seen tremendous growth in tools that help speed up that conversion on the small scale. And then when you look at the indoor production, there has just been a ton of new development and technology to help producers better manage their inputs and really monitor their production and kind of target intervention to keep that system running very, very efficiently. So those are a lot of the pros that we see. On the con side, we're seeing more growth in sort of crop insurance and risk management tools, but we're not there yet. So there's more risk involved with production risk, and our insurance tools aren't quite as effective. I spoke about the elderberry crop and how you can plant a crop and not be in full production until the 5th year. Of course, for pecans and other tree nuts, that length is longer. It could be 6, 8, 10 years. Again, depending on whether you're using a hybrid improved cultivar or a native seed. And despite the growth in small hand tools and walk-behind tractors and other equipment, this industry can be very labor intensive. When we look at the marketing side, specialty crop producers are in this, they have the opportunity to go out and find their market and cultivate that and command a very high price per unit, but the market isn't just sitting there. They have to go out and get it. So, and they can make really strategic investments in their business to sort of do season extension. But because there is, seasonality to all of this, they have to be prepared to weather the highs and lows of the prices throughout the season. And again, these are highly perishable crops. So you'll see in our enterprise budgets, we're building in more cold storage, which can be quite expensive, but farms need to have adequate storage and adequate market systems to really do just-in-time delivery or have the ability to store that product and process it later.
So there are many resources at University of Missouri Extension that helps specialty crop producers. One of them is enterprise budgets. Enterprise budgets help to estimate the cost of an enterprise and guide producers to start and grow their operation. We also have horticulture specialists who can help producers regarding the production related questions. We offer no-cost business planning assistance at M Extension. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about two enterprise budgets, starting with hydroponic system. Hydroponic system is one of the controlled environment agriculture. There are different kinds of hydroponic farm systems. We have published an article on the types of farming system in hydroponic, which can be found with this link provided here. If you're interested, you can just go to this link and study more about this system. And also we have a grow lights overview and cost estimate. That publication is available in this link. We prepared this enterprise budget for deep water culture system, and the budget is estimated for greenhouse structure with 2,395 square feet in production. We assume that production cycle for growing leafy greens in deep water culture hydroponics is 5 or 6 weeks per year. We assume the total capital investment for hydroponics is $115,000. And this capital investment includes structure, controls, and other equipments and site preparation. We also assume the total labor for this hydroponics is 1,300 hours at the rate of $20 per hour labor cost. Next. This is the snapshot of how enterprise budget looks. And we assume that out of total production, 90% of the production goes to wholesale market and 10% goes to retailer market. With this assumption, we have income of $110,000. And for cost, we have both operating cost and ownership cost with total cost of $87,967. Income over total cost is $22,955 or 34 cents per head. The key production drivers we assumed is 30 heads yield per hour per year per square feet with 95% pack-out rate. The key cost drivers we assumed is out of total cost, we have 30% from labor cost, which is most high, and followed by 26% from utilities and 12% from packaging. You can find this enterprise budget in this link. We have many enterprise budget listed there, and you can learn from there in detail. So next enterprise budget I'm going to talk about is microgreens. Microgreens are young, tender, edible crops harvested as seedlings. They can be grown in greenhouse or high tunnel or in existing building under artificial lights. For our Missouri microgreen budgets, we selected crops like cabbage, radish, broccoli, pea, and the mixed. The total capital investment for these microgreens we assumed as $4,384. That includes stainless steel cell with 4 growing levels, LED lights, fans, cold storage, and other infrastructure for growing these crops. Production ranges from 8 ounces to 15 ounces per tray, depending upon the crops. Likewise, the harvesting days are also ranging from 8 to 13.5 days. So next. We assume that in one crop cycle, we have 4 trays in production, and income for these microgreens ranges from $4,000 to $8,700, and the cost ranges from $3,000 to $6,000, depending upon the crops and the market. Overall income over total cost ranges from $8,000 to $2,800, depending upon the crops and the markets. Like before, this enterprise budget also we can find in this link below.
And the reason we showed you those two crops is because we've seen tremendous interest by producers, and they're very different than commodity agriculture. The microgreens, the fact that you could go from seed to harvest in 8 days is exciting if you're really skilled and know what you're doing. And it's also a great way to learn because by day 10, if it's been a complete failure, well, you can just start all over again. But it does get very hard to sort of look at a system being proposed and think about, well, how does this actually translate across an entire year? So I want to just quickly wrap up and then we'll turn to FSA programming. A few more resources that you may want to share with the farmers that you work with. So we've talked a lot about the importance of markets, and this website has a quick way for producers to try to estimate their market demand. And we also have a pricing tool that collects nationally available specialty crop prices from AMS and makes that data easier to find and use. And then we have the ability for folks to look more intently at the land that they're considering. So as an example of that market demand, this tool allows a producer to enter any address in the United States and pull up a market radius of 10 miles to 100 miles and collect a lot of information about that market area and its potential. This is a snapshot of the specialty crop insight board. Again, this is data collected by AMS. And the producers that I've worked with that have been in this business for a while said, yeah, we use this data and we take the wholesale prices and we double or triple them when we're thinking about how we price our products at the local level when we're selling direct to consumers. And then finally, again, if somebody is trying to make a decision on the land, purchasing land, renting land, or how to best use a piece of land, AgSite is a free tool that allows them to draw any geographic boundary, again, across the United States. And this website is going to quickly pull up a lot of information about the soil in that geography.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Callie Turner. I will be reviewing the FSA portion of the presentation. So I want to start off with a little bit of an overview on the St. Louis area and kind of how we've come about with the urban loans. So in 2022, we opened up an office in the Franklin County Service Center. That office has 8 counties that it covers. So on that team, we also have Brianna Ellis and Lane Tebow. Lane is out of Montgomery County, and Brianna services Franklin County. So when we started that, we were covering 8 counties, including St. Louis. And so now I am covering the loans just for St. Louis area, and then we still have a team that services the surrounding counties. So we have an office that's located on Page Avenue in St. Louis. It is in the Overland neighborhood. We house NRCS and FSA in our office. With NRCS, we have Sarah Shineski, and she is the contact for cost share programs such as EQIP, and she also does technical assistance, such as field visits for producers. And then with Farm Service Agency, I'm the only employee that we have there currently. I cover any loan programs that we have, farm records. So this would include if someone needs to obtain a farm number, and then any cost share and other programs that we have. FSA is also comprised of our Urban County Committee. So this is a board of local producers that are elected, and they are decision makers on a lot of programs that we have. They also set standards for certain programs, and they help us with outreach efforts in the community and promoting our FSA programs. Okay, so an overview of the programs. We have 2 different sections. We've got direct loans and guaranteed loans. So direct loans are loans that FSA makes directly to the producer. This includes our farm ownership loans, micro loans, and joint financing loans, as well as the regular operating loans. The customer does need to be unable to access commercial credit at reasonable rates and terms. So when we look at that, we just want to make sure that the customer is not able to get full financing from a bank before they come to us for that direct loan assistance. And we'll get into some situations later on in the presentation about ways that we can combine types of assistance. With the guaranteed loans, those are loans made by USDA approved lender. Your traditional financing, FSA guarantees the bank's note. The goal with this program is to allow the bank to expand their portfolio and make loans that they are normally not able to make. It alleviates risk from the bank. And we typically see this for larger loan requests, things that we cannot do with a direct loan program, or maybe they qualify for a guarantee based on their financial ratios and the underwriting standards that the bank has. We can also use this program to refinance existing debts. So that is another flexibility with that program. Okay, on the direct farm ownership loans, we've got 3 different categories. We can do 100% financing, farm ownership up to $600,000. There is no down payment required with this program. We can use this to purchase farm real estate, capital improvements, and cover loan closing costs. Our maximum term on that is 40 years, and the current interest rate is 5.5%. The interest rates do change on a monthly basis, but they are fixed for the entire life of the loan. So once that loan is approved or we get to closing, they get the lower of the 2 interest rates. The next program is the 50-45-5, or also called the down payment loan. We can utilize this program with a bank up to $667,000 on the purchase price. So the bank is going to loan 50%, FSA would loan 45%, and then the customer provides a 5% down payment. We do have a cap on what FSA can loan on our amount, so that's $300,150. This was kind of an oversight in the last farm bill that has not been fixed. So this is one that they didn't increase the loan limit when they increased the other programs. So this program can only be used to make farm real estate purchases. FSA is going to have a 20-year term on our part, and then the bank has to do a minimum term of at least 30 years. The interest rate for FSA's portion is 1.5%. That will kind of fluctuate based on what the farm ownership loan rate is at the time, but that's what it is for this month. And then the bank is going to determine their own interest rate. Advantage with this loan program is we do not take additional security on the FSA side. So if somebody's got extra real estate or additional collateral located somewhere else, we would not consider that for additional security on this. The other programs, we would look at that with the exception of a microloan. The last program on the farm ownership loans for the direct side I want to look at is the 50/50 or participation loan. So this is where FSA is going to loan the lesser of 50%. We can go up to $600,000 on our portion. The bank has to loan at least 50% of the purchase price. There's no down payment required. So this is a scenario where the bank can't loan less than what FSA is loaning, if that makes sense. So you can't max out $600,000 on FSA side, and then the bank loans, $200,000 to finish up the purchase price. The bank's got to be at least 50% of what we're purchasing. So we can use this program to purchase farm real estate, capital improvements, and cover loan closing costs. The term on FSA's portion is up to 40 years, and then the bank is going to determine their own term for the loan. Current interest rate for FSA is 3.5%, and then the bank is going to determine their own interest rate. Okay, some things about the direct farm ownership loans. For real estate purchases, we do ask that the customer has a sales contract. We do not do any kind of pre-approval. So when we look at a loan request, it is property specific. We want to make sure that that cash flow is feasible with what the customer has planned for that specific piece of property. We do have some scenarios where we're able to make loans at an auction sale. This kind of is a case-by-case basis and just depends on the scenario of the customer. Typically when this happens, we have the customer that's got a family member that maybe buys that property at the auction and holds it until they're able to get through the FSA loan process. In some instances, we could probably sit down with the customer and the bank, if the bank is involved, and look at the financials and see, what kind of property they're looking at. And then, they could go out and if we make sure the cash flow is feasible, then they could go out and put a bid on that. And then we would process the loan from there. So the only risk associated there is you're not going to have an actual approval from FSA until you have that sales contract to us. But those are just some flexibilities that we have if, a sales contract being provided up front is an issue. You do have to have 3 years of farm managerial experience for the direct farm ownership loans. A common misconception with this is that you have to have 3 years of Schedule Fs on your tax returns, which is not true. We do have a long list of substitutions that are available for similar experience. This is also taken on a case-by-case basis, so it's best to talk with the loan official at FSA if you're unsure if that situation would work for a customer that you're working with. FSA does order and pay for the appraisal with a direct farm ownership loan. So that is a cost that is not passed on to the customer. We can also utilize this when we're doing a joint financing loan or partnering with a bank. We can add the bank as an intended user. Okay, And the operating loans, we can go up to $400,000. We can use this to purchase equipment, livestock, make minor improvements to real estate, and cover recurring operating costs. Our term goes up to 7 years, and the current interest rate is 5.125%. Okay, guaranteed farm ownership loans. The loan limit is currently $2.251 million. That is both for the farm ownership and the operating loans. We can, there are combined loan limitations when we have the direct loans involved. So just check with your FSA loan official if you're looking at doing a combined package, or if the customer has existing debt out there already with a guarantee or a direct loan with FSA. So the farm ownership loans, same thing as the direct loans. The exception here is we can use this program to refinance certain debts. With the direct farm ownership loan, we can't use that to refinance debts. The operating, same as the direct farm ownership loans, we can use that to purchase livestock, poultry, equipment, feed, inputs, supplies, soil and water conservation, and we can still refinance certain debts with limitations. So the rate is determined by the lender, and then the term can be up to 40 years on the farm ownership loans. Loan guarantee fee is 1.5%, and there are fee waivers available in certain scenarios. Okay, next thing I want to highlight is our loan assistance tool. This is a tool that's available for lenders and direct and guaranteed loan borrowers. So this takes you through a guide. Like if you are a customer, you can fill out the information here, and it's going to tell you which programs it recommends. And then we also have a tool here that talks about FSA and relationships with the lenders. So it talks about the guaranteed loans as well as those direct loans that we can partner with the bank. So good information here. This is not meant to be a supplement for talking to someone at FSA. We're happy to talk to you if you email or pick up the phone. But this is just a resource that's available. Okay, so let's go over a couple of scenarios here. The first one is a 50-50 joint financing loan. So I've tried to use fictitious names in here, but these numbers or scenarios are things that we've either seen or things that we can do potentially. So Farmer Joe has been farming for 20 years, and he is ready to expand his row crop operation. He's got a sales contract to purchase a 40-acre farm for $1.4 million. Joe approached his bank about financing the farm. However, Joe has had a few years with poor yields due to recent drought. The bank is unable to make the loan on their own because Joe's financial ratios do not meet the bank's underwriting standards. Joe hears about the FSA joint financing loans via his neighbor, and he reaches out to FSA. FSA plans a meeting with the customer and the bank to discuss his options. Joe currently owns a 30-acre farm that's worth $900,000. We've got a prior lien of $760,000, so our discounted collateral value is $140,000. He also has a primary residence on 5 acres that's worth $300,000. We have a prior lien on that of $90,000, and the discounted collateral value is $210,000. So loan could be structured as follows. The bank would loan $800,000 with a hypothetical 7% variable rate. Collateral for the bank would be a first lien on the 40-acre farm to be purchased. FSA could loan $600,000 with a 2.5% fixed interest rate. That would actually be higher now with the current rate. But anyway, the collateral would be a second lien on the 40-acre farm to be purchased. And then we would also take a junior lien on the existing 30-acre farm that has a little bit of that equity. The appraisal would be paid for by FSA. So in this scenario, we've got the bank doing the purchase for the first half, and then FSA loaning for the rest of it. If you've never used this program before with customers, the customer essentially has two loans. So they're going to make a payment to the bank, and then they've got a loan with FSA that they're making a payment on. We close the loans together, so they're always closed simultaneously on the same day to get that purchase completed. The bank could also request a guarantee on their portion of the loan if they felt like they wanted that extra security blanket. Okay, second scenario is a down payment farm ownership loan. We've got a farmer that was raised on her family's vegetable and small livestock operation. She just graduated with her bachelor's degree in ag business and is looking to purchase her own farm. She reaches out to the bank for assistance in purchasing a 1 acre lot in St. Louis for $200,000. She plans to grow high tunnel tomatoes, beets, and microgreens. The bank is not familiar with specialty crop operations, and they reach out to FSA to partner. Franny also worked with MU Extension to develop a marketing plan, which allowed her to prepare for applying for the loan. She's also provided letters from potential purchasers. So this allows FSA to see that that income is guaranteed. And she also qualifies for a guarantee fee waiver. So the loan was structured as follows. The bank loaned $100,000 with a hypothetical 6.5% variable rate. Their collateral is a first lien on the 1 acre lot to be purchased. FSA loans $90,000 with a 1.5% fixed interest rate. Our collateral is a second lien on the farm to be purchased. And then the customer provides a 5% down payment, $10,000. So a couple things I want to point out here in terms of eligibility. This person does not have 3 years of Schedule Fs. However, she does have experience that we can use to substitute that. Okay, she was raised on her family's vegetable farm, has had a management role in that. She's also got a bachelor's degree in ag business. So those are things that we can use to substitute the 3 years. Also want to point out that MU Extension has those resources available. If you've got somebody that is new, trying to branch out, or this is a startup operation, we have been referring people to MU for the business planning portion of that. It makes things go much smoother with the application process when they are ready and prepared to get those financials filled out. That's a free resource, so you don't have to be, with FSA to send somebody to MU. Okay, micro operating loan. Herb Turner, that's actually my grandpa's name. I wanted to use that because I call him Herb. That's his nickname. So he's starting his own herb business, and the customer approaches ABC Commercial Bank for financing of a walk-behind tractor and a tiller totaling $20,000. The bank requires a 10% down payment for operating loans and a credit score of 650 plus. Because the customer did not meet the bank's underwriting criteria, they referred them to FSA for assistance. So the customer was able to come to FSA. We looked at the credit history and determined that it was acceptable. There were no late payments. There were no judgments or negative information on the credit history, credit report. They also had a feasible cash flow when they presented it to FSA, and it was verified. The security for the loan was also adequate based on recent sales comps. FSA does not require down payment for operating loans, so we were able to make that operating loan for the customer. Customer now has an opportunity to build positive repayment history, relationship with FSA, and then they can gain financial strength until they're able to graduate onto commercial credit in the future. So that's a scenario where, hey, maybe the customer approaches you about doing a loan, but they're not quite ready for commercial credit. That could be a scenario where FSA is able to help them. And then in turn, down the road, that customer may be able to graduate and move on to being fully financed at the bank. Okay, combined loans. So I want to point out that we can utilize the programs together. So the FSA farm ownership loans can be combined with the guaranteed loans, direct operating loans, and guaranteed operating loans. So an example of this would be FSA financing the real estate and maybe the equipment with a direct loan program. And then the customer goes to the bank for operating credit through a guaranteed operating loan. That way, the customer is able to keep that lower fixed interest rate with FSA on the land and the larger pieces of equipment, while the customer is allowed to build and maintain that lending relationship with the bank. So a lot of ways that we can use that. Main thing is just talk to us. If you're thinking about a potential package, we're happy to walk through it with you. Okay, the next thing I'd like to go over is farm storage facility loans. I just want you all to know that this is available. So this is a program that's through FSA. We can combine this, like if a customer goes to a bank for the land purchase, and then maybe the bank doesn't want to be involved in some of the other pieces, like the equipment, or maybe like a walk-in cooler, things like that. So the farm storage facility loan can be used for handling equipment and structures that are used to store and handle commodities post-harvest. So this would include things like washing, drying, packing, storing, or moving the commodity. Some eligibility requirements include the customer does need to grow the commodity. They must show a need for the storage, and they do have to have an acceptable credit rating and financial analysis. They also cannot have any delinquent federal non-tax debt. These are some photos of things that we either have loaned on or could potentially loan on. So this first example here is a enclosed trailer being used to move the product. It's also a van that could be used to transport products to market. This is a honey processing machine that bottles the honey. We've loaned on skid steers, pallet jack, walk-in cooler. This is a refrigerated truck. It's got a lift gate on it. This is a wash station, pack station. That's the garlic sorter. And then this is a just a storage warehouse for the commodity. In terms of the storage need, that is something that we work with the customer to determine what their capacity is going to be. So on the term of the loan, we can go anywhere from 3 to 12 years, just depends on the loan amount. The interest rate is also fixed, and that varies based on the term. Those interest rates are posted on the website every month. Yeah, and this is our contact info. So this is me for St. Louis. I can also send you the contact info if you're in the surrounding areas and get you to the loan staff there. But happy to talk to anybody if you've got questions or have a potential customer that you think we may be able to help or partner with. Would love to hear from you. And we're excited to be in St. Louis area and finally have staff here permanently. So we're in the process of expanding our portfolio. So appreciate your help in doing that. So thank you.